In 1937, Italian designer Elsa Schiaparelli teamed up with surrealist artist Salvatore Dali to collaborate on a piece that blurred the lines between both fashion and art. The result, an A-line white silk organza gown with a bold red lobster surrounded by parsley, painted by Dali himself. That same dress made headlines when American socialite Wallis Simpson, later Duchess of Windsor, wore it in a 1937 Vogue photo shoot shot by Cecil Beaton just before marrying Edward VIII. Hi, I'm Joseph. Welcome to the Reef Runway collaboration hosted by Magicalgirlkitcat. I'll be recreating my version of Schiaparelli's lobster dress, the same dress that helped inspire this very collaboration. Let's dive right in. The dress consists of 4 pattern pieces: a circle skirt, the bodice, midriff piece, and a simple flounce. I made 2 samples before finding a good balance of the gathered bust and the midriff piece. For the materials, I'll be using a red satin to mimic the red chiffon in the original dress, an off-white chiffon, and a white cotton plain weave for the lining. I began my sewing portion of the project by gathering the bust on the bodice pieces and then matching them up to sew the necklines and the armhole seams. After flipping the piece, I joined the side seams and sewed them. The midriff piece was then pinned and sewn on as well. And yes, I did sew each piece separately. The lining and the main fabric are sewn separately after this point. Same goes for the skirts. This is necessary for the specific closure I'm planning to use. Let's do a quick try on. For the flounce, I found that it was too long, so I went back and removed some of the excess material from the skirt, and it kinda worked out perfectly. With the length just right, it was time to hem and sew the back closure seam. Since I wanted to keep the skirts as 2 separate pieces, I marked where the sandhole ended so I could start at that point and sew my way down on each skirt. So as you can see, there are still these holes at the back of the dress, so we have to go back in there on the wrong side and close them up. With the back fully sewn, I was able to install grommets and of course I had to use Schiaparelli gold. For the lobster, I really didn't have time to freehand it, so I kinda resorted to tracing the original to make a cut file. Forgive me, art gods, I know I have sinned, but in all fairness, I could never make it as good as Dolly, so I'm sure he kinda understands and, respects the hustle. After cutting and weeding the vinyl, it is time to iron it on. Now the parsley was way too freeformed, with each motif being really unique in its own little design, so I decided to mark the general placement instead. Using the marks as a guide, I started to heat set the stones. I sadly didn't have enough to really go all out like I really would have wanted to, so I heavily simplified the parsley and turned them into simple flower motifs with leaves. I'm sorry. Sue me, you guys. Another change I did was removing the parsley from the bust as it is on the original dress. Not only was it difficult to set the stones in that area, but I kinda wasn't really a big fan of the original placement. And the dress is all set. So after seeing one of these sketches that Elsa herself made and was featured on Vogue, I was heavily inspired to make one of these faux straw hats. I call this faux straw hat because it's not really a straw hat, it is made out of burlap ribbon. The ribbon was cut into equal pieces of equal length and woven into a single piece using a plain weave. Once the plain weave was done, I secured the ends to keep them from falling apart. With the ends secured, I played a bit with the piece just to test out how I wanted it to rest on the base. The hat base is a cloche dome that I normally use to store my doll heads, and it happened to be the perfect size. With the general idea of the direction I was headed towards, I decided to start the starching process. The mix consists of scrap water-soluble interfacing dissolved into water with a splash of white vinegar. I prepared the material by wetting it before adding the starch solution. Once dry, the hat definitely held its shape, but lost most of it after I hand-stitched it. I did one last coat of starch and let it fully dry. The second coat made it way more sturdier, but I still felt the need to hand-stitch a few of the spots. And I really like how it turned out. While I did like the look of the hat, I felt like it needed a little more detail, so I tried on some red ribbon, but I wasn't a fan. I ended up trying out some of the material from the dress, and honestly it fit perfectly. I added a few stitches just to hold it in place, and the hat was all set. Now with the hat finished, I just had to try on some different wigs with it. Now which one did you like best? Comment below. I really wanted to incorporate another aspect from my inspiration pictures for this project, so I decided to make a small shawl and a necklace inspired by what Wallace Simpson wore in her photo shoot. I simply cut out two strands from the jeweled chain, one longer than the other so they rest at different lengths on the neck. I tied both at the end, and then both ends tied together to close the circle, and it's a quick and simple way to make doll jewelry. Today's model is Jade, a journey alternate. Let's get her dressed up. For the shoes, I'll be using Culture Japan white vinyl pumps. I ended up choosing the red wig since I truly enjoy the monochromatic look the most. It's just my favorite. And we can't forget the sun hat. And here she is. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please take a moment to check out my fellow collaborators and show them some love. They're all extremely talented and sewed up some truly epic Reef Runway looks. They're all linked in my description below. Check them out.